I have found doctors pointing out the convenience of the hospital side. I feel that a lot of medical care in Japan today is only considered from the standpoint of the medical profession. Hospitals need to make as much money as possible to run their business, so they often want patients to stay in the hospital and use their hospital beds. Minasan konnichiwa and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. Japan has the longest average life expectancy in the world, so it must be a very healthy country. Many Japanese believe this to be true, but when you look at some actual data, the reality might be a little different. One of those data is the number of cancer patients and cancer deaths. How is it that Japan is the only developed country in the world where the number of cancer deaths is increasing? So today, I will explain about the situation of patients suffering from cancer and deaths caused by it in Japan. Then talk about the 3 reasons why the number is so outrageous. The last 2 reasons I feel are especially shocking, so I hope you can watch this video till the end. But before I start, I must inform you that I'm not a medical professional, and this video is based on my research of various studies by doctors in Japan. If you are a medical personnel, please let me know in the comments about your opinions on Japan's situation with cancer after watching this video. In this channel, you take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。First of all, let's talk about the situation of cancer in Japan. 1. Cancer is the #1 cause of death in Japan. 2. The number of cancer causes and deaths in Japan continues to rise. 3. Cancer mortality rates in Japan and the world. Cancer has been the leading cause of death among Japanese people since 1981. Today, more than 300,000 people die of cancer every year, and it is estimated that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime. The number of cancer causes and deaths have been increasing since the 1980s, ever since it became the leading cause of death. Compared to 40 years ago, the number of cases has tripled, and the number of deaths has doubled. Next, let's compare Japan's mortality rate with other countries around the world. The following data compares the death rate per 100,000 people in Japan with that of the United States, United Kingdom, France, and Italy. While the death rate has been declining in many countries since 1995, Japan is the only country where the rate has not declined at all and continues to grow at a significant rate. Why is the situation in Japan getting worse? Let's talk about this in the next chapter. By the way, I've only introduced the brief information here. So if you'd like to take a look at the data in more detail, please visit the English website I have in the description box below. Then, let's start talking about today's main topic, why the number of cancer deaths is growing in Japan. These are the 3 main reasons I have found through my studying. 1. Aging society. 2. Unhealthy diets. 3. Lack of screening and faith in surgery. 1. Aging society. The first reason that many hospitals and doctors point out is that Japan is the world's most aged country. In fact, the average age of the total population in Japan is 48.4 years old, and more than 28.7% of the population is older than 65 years old. In 2025, 1/3 of the people will be older than 65 years old, and 1/4 will be older than 75 years old. Cancer is a disease caused by the aging of cells. So naturally, as the number of elderly people increases, so do the number of cancer patients and deaths. However, that does not explain why the number continues to grow only in Japan. This is because the aging of society is not just a problem in Japan, but it is happening in countries all over the world. So I would like to mention 2 more possibilities. 2. Unhealthy diets. I believe many people have an image of Japanese food being healthy, but unfortunately, the reality might be different. 1. Consuming of carbohydrates and meat continues to increase. 2. The world's largest approved amount of food additives. 3. Second largest pesticide use in the world. Japanese food, or WASHOKU, is very high in carbohydrates. As a result, the number of people diagnosed with diabetes is growing every year. According to the National Health and Nutrition Survey in 2017, about 1 out of 6 Japanese people currently have diabetes or have a high risk of being diagnosed with it, which means there are about 10 million people who have diabetes, and around 13,000 people die because of it every year. Diabetes stimulates the growth of cancer cells and is shown to increase the risk of cancer by 20%. While the consumption of fruits and vegetables have been dropping year by year, meat intake has increased tenfold, and fat content has tripled over the past 50 years. If you actually come to Japan, you will see that every city is filled with popular low-quality beef bowls that cost only a few hundred yen and all-you-can-eat yakiniku restaurants. Also, while most countries only have about a few dozens of allowable food additives, it is said that in Japan there are more than 1,500 kinds. Of course, not all of them are completely harmful, but some of these food additives are banned in many foreign countries and confirmed by WHO for having the risk of increasing cancer, hives, strokes, and dementia. The thousands of food additives have all been officially approved by the government as not harmful to human health after undergoing rigorous investigation, but they have only been tested on animals and only one food additive at a time. No one knows what would happen if humans intake multiple kinds for a long period of time. Lastly, other studies point out that Japan is a pesticide powerhouse. Japan uses about 11.4 kilo of pesticides per hectare of farmland on average, which is more than 4 times the amount of pesticides used in the US, and 3 to 20 times the amount in European countries. Some of the approved pesticides include those that were quickly banned in the EU and other countries that were found to have neurotoxic effects on human brains. But why are Japanese people eating such an unhealthy diet? For more information, I talked about this in a past video called Japanese Food is Not Healthy. So if you're interested, please check it out. Unfortunately, we do not have concrete data to determine the extent to which these events actually influence the number of cancer causes and deaths in Japan. But I believe that we cannot completely disregard them. 3. Lack of screening and faith in surgery. Finally, the low rate of cancer screening in Japan and the fact that surgery is so often the treatment of choice for cancer are also cited as causes. Looking at the breast and uterine cancer checkup rates in 30 OECD countries, only about 40% of the population in Japan receives checkups, while most Western countries have rates of 70% or higher. According to a poll conducted by the Cabinet Office of Japan, many people do not receive medical checkups because they do not have the time. Perhaps it has something to do with the long working hours in Japan. And when they actually get diagnosed with cancer, most Japanese people try to treat it with surgery. For most kinds of cancer, data shows that the rate for treatment of surgery and radiotherapy is the same. However, the rate of radiotherapy in Japan is only about 25%. Taking stage 1 lung cancer as an example, the average rate of radiotherapy is more than 40 to 50% in other countries, but in Japan, only 5% is used. While the majority of radiotherapy has the benefit of being an outpatient treatment, surgery has the risk of leaving cancer behind, is expensive, and requires hospitalization. Why do Japanese people have the preconception that cancer should be cured by surgery? There is no absolute theory, but as far as I've studied, I have found doctors pointing out the convenience of the hospital side. I feel that a lot of medical care in Japan today is only considered from the standpoint of the medical profession. Hospitals need to make as much money as possible to run their business, so they often want patients to stay in the hospital and use their hospital beds. Since most of the people being treated for cancer are elderly, they follow the doctor's instructions and choose surgery, regardless of whether that is the best option for them or not. I don't know how much this testimony is true, but I thought it was a very convincing opinion. Again, I am neither a medical professional or a person who has studied medicine. Therefore, if you're familiar with the subject, please feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. I believe this video will become whole with your opinions and thoughts. Lastly, today's conclusion. The situation of cancer in Japan is as follows. 1. Cancer is the #1 cause of death in Japan. 2. The number of cancer cases and deaths in Japan continues to rise since 1980s. 3. Japan is the only country with growing mortality rate. The reasons for such a frightening situation that I found through my studying are the following. 1. Japan is the world's leading aging society. 2. Unhealthy diets, too much carbohydrates, meat, approved food additives, and pesticides. 3. Lack of screening due to the lack of time and faith in surgery because hospitals want to make more money. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If this video helped you to learn about a different side of Japan, please hit the like button to help me boost this video to more people. And my goal is to achieve 1 million subscribers by January 2023, so your help would mean a lot. And please check out our sub-channel and membership through the link inside the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. どうもありがとうございました。So this video is probably one of the most difficult ones I've ever made in my channel before. There's just so many different, different kinds of data all tangled together, and sometimes you don't know which data actually tells the truth, Sometimes the way they write it is a little bit confusing, what they use for the scale of their data might be different, and it was really, really difficult for me, But I actually did consider not making this video, but it was still a topic that I really want to pick up and talk about, because I actually do personally feel, as a man living in Japan, that there actually are a lot of people who are diagnosed with cancer and actually die from it. Yes, I actually know a lot of people who have been suffering from cancer myself, so I did want to actually talk about this, and I really wanted to study more from the people who will be writing comments for this video. I really wanted to learn more from you. And I also wanted to say 2 things about Japan's life expectancy. Every time I talk about, Japanese food is not healthy, of course there are different theories about this too. There are a lot of people who tell me, well, Japan still has the longest life expectancy, right? But there's 2 things I think you need to keep in mind. Number 1 is that the life expectancy might be long, but it doesn't mean that Japanese people are healthy. This is something a lot of people talk about. I forgot the exact age, but Japanese people do live long, but it doesn't mean that we're actually healthy in living long. Japan actually has a very, very long period of time within the long life expectancy where people are in the hospitals on the bed. They are alive, but they aren't healthy. They're just on the bed and they're just alive, that kind of thing. So there's this different word where you call it like healthy life expectancy, healthy age expectancy or something like that. And that is like almost a decade shorter than the life expectancy. That's number 1. And number 2, about all the food additives and all the pesticides that I talk about, is something that's been happening very recently. I think I'm actually 27 right now, but I think it's been growing rapidly around when I was born. So around from my generation and younger, probably my kids' generation, I think Japan's health situation will dramatically change. Until my parents' generations, I'm pretty sure it wasn't that bad, so it's still okay. And there's a lot of people in my parents' generation that says, well, food additives, pesticides are not a big problem. You can just eat it. Like, look at me, I was able to live till 40 or 50 or 60. I'm still okay. But that's because when you were younger, you didn't have that much pesticide. You still had farmers in your neighborhood that would give you, your vegetables to you as gifts, or back in those days. But right now is completely different. So I just wanted to talk about these two things. When you really need to keep these two things in mind when you take a look at the life expectancy of Japan.